Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. Your thoughts on Petar Čelik, a 70s bodybuilder who was and still is a friend of Arnold, and his belief that eating 10 plus eggs is not harmful. He eats 20 to 30 a day, so just eggs in the meal. And also his diet consists of many seeds, oats, vegetables, and he eats meat 5 times a year only. He also said that fluoride from toothpaste is harmful for humans. He said these statements in an interview. I don't follow today's bodybuilding. I'm not a fan, but this guy is from my country, and today he is 69, almost 70 years old. Still competes and is ripped. He is healthy and a really intelligent person. I watch a lot of interviews with him, but on my language, and really you can listen to him for hours. I respect and admire these kind of people. Thanks, Jason. And you can't put this in the Q&A, make a video about him. I don't really know about this guy, but I guess some of the stuff, I don't really buy into all the fluoride conspiracy theories. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, that being said, certainly it's possible for a person to consume no fluoride in their drinking water and be in amazing health at 70. I mean, it's not like we need fluoride in our diet or anything. It's purely about teeth health. So, I mean, that's not going to harm him. Like, avoiding fluoride is in no way going to harm his health. So that's not really a factor here, I think. As far as the eggs and everything, you know, this is where we get into these topics. And this is what we have to understand about things like saturated fat intake and everything else. Yeah, excessive saturated fat intake is bad. Of course it is. Yes, saturated fat intake is through a couple of pathways linked with hardening of the arteries over time, and it might not hit you at 70 even, depending on how healthy his overall lifestyle is. And it sounds like his overall lifestyle is pretty damn healthy. So would you expect eating some extra saturated fat in your diet to harm your health if all other aspects of your lifestyle are on point? Meaning you stay lean, you're extremely physically active, strength trained, get plenty of fruits and vegetables and stuff, and it sounds like he does. Physically active takes care of himself. I wouldn't expect in that environment someone who consumes extra saturated fat to necessarily be in bad health as a result of it. It's compounding factors that cause these things. And we need to understand whether we're talking about something like saturated fat or we're talking about fructose or any of these other things that people do worry about in excess. Generally, their most negative health effects happen in a calorie surplus, like when you're bulking. If you're at maintenance or you are in a deficit, you don't see negative health markers from saturated fat intake. You don't. Just like you don't see it from a bit of excessive fructose intake either in that environment. It's when you're now in the weight gaining phase where that stuff really comes out. And that's what we need to be aware of. It's a calorie surplus combined with excess of these different things is where the real damage and danger happens to the human body. That's what we really need to be concerned with. So he probably is perfectly healthy in spite of the egg intake. All right, next question. Hey Jason, seeing your recent video about junk food, assuming someone doesn't have a vitamin deficiencies and he is at a healthy body weight, is junk food still a problem? I'm asking this because I'm an advanced lifter and want to keep making gains even though they're slow, but at the same time I want to be as healthy as possible, especially now that I will turn 30 soon. The thing is that my natural appetite sucks. Used to be skinny, hard gainer, and now that my TDEE is even higher after years of lifting, it's actually difficult to even maintain my weight, let alone gain more weight if I eat mostly clean foods. But if I throw in some pizza or hamburger, I can easily get an extra 1,500 calories while eating food that I enjoy rather than force feed with something that isn't even super enjoyable. You know, that's kind of leads back into what I said in the last question. A lot of this stuff has to do with energy balance, energy turnover. And when you're talking about pizza and burgers, that's not even really what I'm thinking of as true junk food. You know, I'm thinking of junk food as when we combine processed sugar with saturated fat, or we start deep frying all this stuff. So we start getting all this large amounts of saturated fat combined with refined fructose or fried foods and all this other nonsense, or completely nutrient devoid things. Because your concern there might be, what, too much beef or cheese? Well, those aren't nutrient devoid. But it also comes down to, we go back to that point with saturated fat intake. It also depends on how fast you're bulking. It sounds like for me, you're doing that occasionally just to get that stuff in because you struggle to get enough calories to gain any weight. You're carrying a lot of muscle and sometimes you want to make a very slow, clean bulk. Well, here's what I'm going to say. If that's the foods that you need to add to your otherwise healthy diet in order to make small amounts of weight gain as a serious lifter, but you're not getting fat In other words, you're not bulking to 25% body fat with those foods. You're very active. Overall, your diet is balanced, and you just need to throw in some higher fat foods, because that's what you're doing. You're adding higher fat foods to an existing diet in order to reach caloric surplus so you can gain any weight, or in some cases maintain your weight. All right, if you are so physically active that you need to add extra fat to your diet to even maintain your body weight and you're at a healthy body fat, I don't think you're going to suffer health effects from that. I don't think you're going to suffer negative health effects from that at all. You shouldn't. Why would you? So in this case, it's all context dependent, isn't it? Yeah, it's context dependent. And as someone in your situation, I don't think we're talking about the same health concerns we're talking about with the sedentary or semi-sedentary obese person who's eating these foods. That's a difference there. That's a big difference versus someone who struggles to gain weight, is lean, healthy, physically active, trains, and has to do that just to maintain their body weight or make any even small gains in body weight. No, you're not going to see the same health concerns. We're comparing apples to oranges here. So I think it's probably fine for you. All right, next question. Hypothetical training tool. Hardly anyone does use a buffalo/duffalo bar for pause bench close to shoulder width grip to facilitate a greater depth of stretch reflex with a deep breath each rep to keep it active biomechanically. Makes logical sense in using a flat back to engage the front deltoid as well to a greater extent. You would also be efficient with overhead pressing without ever having to even touch them. Got my bench to 450 along with deadlifts and squats way faster than the straight bar. Wonder why more people don't try unorthodox things, but hit everything in the gym and the kitchen sink. I see you believe in full range of motion. Don't you think the buffalo bar is potentially better than the straight? And it's a stigma to not try things nobody else is doing in the gym like this. I think it would benefit a guy like you. Also, the curvature is good for injury prevention, keeping elbows in. All right, that was a little bit of a disjointed run-on sentence there, brother, but we're going to roll with it. So, yeah, there could be something to that, because it comes down to the individual people's biomechanics. A guy like me, and you might be built similar to me, we probably could benefit from those curved bars on a closed grip bench, yeah, right? Because you're getting a deeper stretch. Someone with a much smaller rib cage and less chest development, it could be excessive. It could hurt them. Now, do I think these could replace things like dumbbell bench? Yeah, absolutely. The only reason we ever use a dumbbell bench is for that extra range of motion for a deeper stretch. This would replicate that. I think, yeah, you're right. This could be a valuable training tool for a longer range of motion, getting a deeper stretch, which can produce more overall development. The only thing is that not everyone has access to one of these. Not everyone has access. But yeah, I think it can be a valuable tool in the right context. I agree with you. But it comes down to not everyone having access to it. And again, having to have an extra expensive bar and everything around in your home gym. I don't know for sure that it would be justified in the grand scheme of things, because there could be benefits, but I think those benefits would be relatively small. But we come back to that point of, if you're trying to maximize everything, maybe that small benefit might be worth it to you. So I guess that's the way to look at it. And it also comes down to individual body structure. Right? It comes down to the size of your rib cage and everything making a difference here. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I am a noob and I have never deadlifted before, but I saw a trap bar with 4 plates on it, and so I tried to deadlift with proper form, but I felt a lot of pressure on my entire back and stopped at the second rep because I was worried. Am I supposed to feel intense back pressure when I deadlift? I tried to put emphasis on my legs, but I only felt my back. Yeah, man, you just loaded over 400 pounds on your back having never deadlifted before. So, of course, it's going to feel like that. It's probably more weight than you normally squat. So what do you think is going to happen? Here's what I would suggest. Don't jump into really heavy deadlifts at first until you get used to it. You know, if you've only been squatting and rowing and stuff, you're going to be decently strong at the deadlift at the start. But you know, you're going to need to ease into it. You know, don't try to start with a 400-pound deadlift just because you're physically strong enough to do it, and you would be. And I understand. I mean, the first time I deadlifted, I pulled 455. I'd never deadlifted in my life, but I already had a squat over 400. All right, and I was already doing high reps on rows with like 225 and stuff like that. So yeah, I get it. It's easy to come in and just do it, but you've got to get used to it. You have to get used to that axial loading. You have to get used to that spinal compression, because it can take a little getting used to. So yes, you're going to feel an intense pressure in your back. You just need to make sure that you gradually build up to that, and that's what you need to do there. All right, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.